On Easter Monday, April 21st, a group of teenagers from the Diocese of Tucson landed at Leonardo da Vinci Airport in Rome. The 45 teenagers and their chaperones were there to witness the canonization of Blessed Carlo Acutis, the first millennial saint. Their pilgrimage, though, took a historic turn when Pope Francis died. Today, I'm joined by Father Manu Franco, a Carmelite priest here in the Diocese of Tucson. Father Manu is a director of youth ministry and led the pilgrims on a trip of a lifetime. Father Manu, thank you for being here.
All right. Thank you, Lorraine.
Now, Father, you got back in Tucson on Monday, April 28th.
Yes.
A little tired?
A little bit, yeah. We were in Tucson at 9 p.m. Mm-hmm.
So this was 7 days, and this was really a very long pilgrimage, which you expected, but it, of course, took a turn.
Yeah, it was actually 9 days with
Okay.
the flying days and everything, yeah. As soon as we landed on Monday, we saw on social media that the Pope just passed away. It was like an hour or two before we landed, and that was the beginning of everything, yeah.
So you're there with tour guides,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so they meet you at the airport, but over the phone you had told me that you gathered the group and you had 45 teenagers, 20 adults.
Mm-hmm.
You gathered them right there in baggage claim to pray.
Yeah. Yeah, so we moved from the plane to the baggage claim area, and we were taking the bags down. Some of the kids were going to the restroom, and I was texting with the tour guides. They were waiting for us outside, and then one of the chaperones called 3 or more chaperones, and then they had that look, and they just look at me. I wasn't with them exactly. I was on the other side of the group, and it was a strange look. And they said, "Father, can you come?" So, and I was like, "What happened?" And the first thing that you think, we have 45 teenagers, somebody's sick or something. They need me to make a decision or fix something, and they just show me the phone. There was the picture saying that just Pope Francis was gone. I froze at the beginning, and the only thing I could think is like, I have to deliver the news to everybody and say a quick prayer. And yeah, we circle. I told them, and we pray for the Pope before getting out of the airport. Mm-hmm.
What are your initial thoughts? I mean, that's got to be heartbreaking on so many levels.
That's the question that everybody's been asking. We were interviewed by, I think it was 3 news agencies, and they all asked the same question: what was the feeling? And I don't have an answer for that. I don't like being asked, about the feelings, because it's in I mean, it is what it is. It is on God's time. That was the end of his papacy, and God made the decision, and I don't think we had the right to be angry or anything. I was a little bit frustrated when we got to the bus, and I thought, what am I gonna do? It's just been over a year planning this. Obviously, you're talking about teenagers. They needed the assistance of their families and their communities to raise the funds and everything, and I'm thinking, what's next? What do I do? And we received, the first thing we got in the first 2 hours was emails saying that everything was canceled. So I said, well, I had to wait.
You canceled like all your pilgrimage visits, your sites, everything.
No, not the visits.
Okay.
Not the visits, the events for the Jubilee.
Okay.
Whatever the Vatican had, like the audience with the Pope, if the Pope was, available to show. But still, there was an audience. There was another event on Friday, and then a circus on Saturday. It was like a fest. And then and my first thought was, on the canonization, what's going to happen? Okay. Then later on, we got another email saying that the canonization was canceled. And that got me really frustrated, because everybody we were so excited about being part of a canonization.
Right.
And I didn't know why, so I found out that only a pope can declare a saint. So it is a very basic rule. So it wasn't because they decided to cancel it. It's because it's canceled, by default, just because there is no pope. And it is interesting that you need a pope to make a saint. So
And you didn't know that ahead of time.
I didn't
That's
know.
not something that we often deal with. A pope doesn't.
No, you don't ask those questions. You don't go reading the books and the rules, what are the possible scenarios, because you don't expect that. You learn a lot on the go as things happen. So, and the tour guide was, I think he was making a great effort to keep the spirit alive, like everybody, and excited. And we're going to do it. We're going to help you. We're in communication with people. So they were the two guides, actually, because we had two buses. They were locals. That was the good thing. And they have all kinds of connections with the Vatican and everywhere in Italy. So I had to trust them, that they would be able to put this together. But then everything rebuilt over the first 3 days. He came back, and obviously the information about the funeral and everything. And then he came to me and said, "Do you want to go to the funeral?" And I thought, oh boy, this is going to be massive, with 45 kids, taking them to a funeral. And I said, yes, let's do it. So, let's go to the funeral. And then they announced that the closing mass was back for the Jubilee of Teens. So we didn't miss anything.
Okay.
It changed completely. But again, if you ask me, even a week after, if you ask me how I feel, I don't know. You don't want to say that. You don't want to say, everything is fine, because it is sad, to lose somebody so important for the church. But I felt this a lot of peace. I felt a lot of peace, and I was very satisfied with his ministry as a pope. I think he did what was in his hands and what God asked him to do. And it just was this kind of like openness, heart to, okay, let's see what we get, from this experience. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. We got to see him very, very close, his body, on Friday morning.
What was that like? I imagine that it's a surreal moment, right? You're not expecting to see the Pope at all in an audience, right? But now you're seeing him in his funeral.
Yeah, his body. I had two feelings. One was he was elected Pope the year I was in the novitiate. So he marked the beginning of my formation as a Carmelite. And I remember that when he was announced, we were watching everything on TV, and I like him so much, the way he presented himself, that I said to myself, he is going to be my formator. I had the feeling that there was something about him that would teach me something, going through my formation as a Carmelite and as a priest. And I wasn't wrong. I learned a lot from him. I watched him closely. His decisions, his words, his attitude, his documents, and it's been beautiful. But I also realized that he was the Pope of these kids, because they were 14 through 17, and you had the Pope who was a Pope for 12 years, so they didn't know anybody else. They were 3, 4, 2 when he was elected. So he was important. He is important to them. That was the face they saw, representing the church. So I felt really a very deep sense of gratitude for his life. I was very, I said, God, thank you so much for this man. Thank you so much. I stopped on the side to pray for probably a couple of minutes, and they said, you have to move, Father.
At the viewing.
They said, you have to move, you have to keep going. I tried to go back. I made it a few steps again. So I was to the point that, I didn't want the police to take me out, but I said, I got to try, to spend a little more time. But yeah, I'm very grateful for his life and his ministry.
Being inside the viewing, I imagine it's very quiet and somber and peaceful, but you have literally thousands of people who went to the viewing over that day. How would you describe kind of the feeling inside the room where his casket lay?
there was a lot of silence, towards the front or the main area of the basilica, because people were talking as we were going down the line, but then you could feel the silence growing, and the respect, the feelings on people's faces, some people crying, really feeling emotional, the smiles in some faces. I think a lot of people felt also gratitude, great respect. Unbelievable. Yeah.
You and I were in touch via WhatsApp throughout your trip, and you sent me pictures. One was a very nice photo of one of your pilgrims praying at Carlo, at Blessed Carlo. I mean, to be able to be in that moment and see these children showing this reverence and respect, and then knowing now they're seeing a Pope's funeral. Tell me a bit about why you wanted the students to be able to see Blessed Carlo.
Because he died when he was 15. And that itself says a lot to young people, to be able to say that a very simple life can make a saint. And to say to them, look, you are this is not unreachable. This is right around the corner. This can be you, and it's simple. It is very simple. And by the way, that kid was the youngest pilgrim, and we accepted him, because he really wanted to go. He really wanted to go, and he wanted to go for the canonization. So, and I believe this is a kid who was deeply moved by everything, going to churches and visiting Carlo Acuti. I mean, he had the initiative to stay there, touch the I would say the coffin, but it was more like a stone, and pray. And I stopped and I stayed behind and I watched him, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. So,
were you able to see some of their reactions when they were looking at the Pope's body?
No, I saw them after. So they were emotional. They were. I think also they probably felt gratitude, that the realization of how big the church is and how, somebody can make a big impact. I was so focused on the Pope. I was so focused on the Pope that I, at that moment, I didn't look around. No.
Understandable.
Yeah.
So the next day, you actually had the honor and privilege of being a concelebrant at the funeral. You sent me a photo. You were in the plaza, not too far away from the altar. How did that happen?
Well, you can go there. There was a section for concelebrants. Never been a concelebrant there. So I've been to Rome as a priest once before COVID, but I never had the chance to go to a mass there. So I asked around priests that we met before, and they said, you bring your card from your diocese, your vestments, and then you look for the entrance for priest. So it's a little bit confusing the first time. But as we were approaching the Vatican, we saw the priest walking in one direction, and I said to Father Luis Pablo, I said, let's go that way. So we followed the priest, and we made it to that section, and it was amazing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be a priest taking a group of 45 teenagers, as we've joked about, right? That was stressful in and of itself. But now you're concelebrating the Pope's funeral.
Yeah.
How long have you been a priest?
7 years.
7 years. I mean, that's nothing that you ever think about doing, is it?
No. How can you plan something like that unless you just jump on the plane, the day before? It was, I could not believe it. It was very surreal. And the silence before, like an hour before, there was this deep silence. As I said to you, when you're watching these things on TV, somebody's telling you everything that is happening around, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't have anybody explaining anything. We were just sitting there, and 30 minutes before they started the rosary, we all prayed the rosary. And then I noticed that there was this drone over us hovering. And then the drone went back, and I look at the screen on the left side, and I could not believe the amount of people. It was unbelievable. But the Mass was amazing. it is hard because we don't speak the language. Again, you're not watching on TV, somebody translating or something. But we can pick a little bit of Italian when you speak Spanish. The mass was mostly in Latin. The music, the sound system was unbelievable, beautiful. It was beautiful. The voices, and the last rites, the last part of the ritual. The farewell section, and then you have the Easter churches also doing the ritual, which is chanted. It was so emotional. And I only had one word at the end. The only thing that crossed my mind, and I actually whispered the word, I said, gracias. Thank you. That's all I could say. Yeah.
You said there was a moment of silence, and there were 250,000 people estimated to be at the Pope's funeral. How is it that many people can be silent?
Good question. But I think it is a sign of unity, that we are one. We are one body. And we found ourselves experiencing the oneness, being one church, and having the mortal body of somebody who represented that unity. It's something. Mm-hmm.
When you were there in Rome and you were visiting a number of places, right? I imagine you started to notice the environment changing. Security is shifting with so many diplomats coming into town. You have tourists, you have pilgrims. I mean, there's a lot that's happening. Were you amazed that everything came to fruition the way that you said it would? You said that everything was orchestrated so well. It was organized. It's like this. They knew what to do at the Vatican.
Yes, it's unbelievable. It is unbelievable that you see the. It does have a kind of like a chaotic component, naturally, because of the amount of people, but they know what to do. These people know what to do. Because they do it very often. You realize that. You see Vatican masses on TV and this and that, and every other week, and you don't realize the amount of work behind that. But to see that structure, and I was actually watching a photo on internet last night, where talking about how well structured and organized the church is, that it was visible in the plaza. It was visible. Cardinals, bishops, priests, diplomats, and the faithful, all having the chance to be around him, but to have leaders from around the world, it is very powerful. Francis really had an open door in many levels of reality. Not just the faithful, people who are just practicing their faith, but even these mandataries who went to his funeral, that they probably felt touched or inspired by him, and how that also has implications for the life of the world. Yeah.
It's a real testament to the universal church when you have Catholics, Christians, non-Christians attend this man's funeral. Well, you were in Rome. You were able to see a number of sites. Assisi, the Roman Colosseum. Tell us a little bit about why you wanted the students to witness those places.
I think, I wanted Assisi. Assisi wasn't part of the original proposal, but in my conversations with Archbishop Weissenberger, we talk about Assisi because it is a holy place. It is a powerful place. It is the place of St. Francis, and you have St. Francis, Clara, and Acutis now, I think one of the things that people say, and I went through the same experience, is that you get a feeling of the how big and strong and solid the church is and the Catholic faith is. You can live your life in a parish and live your faith and go to mass and everything, but we tend to think that the world around us is the world, and that's it, right? And our lives are short. It's whatever is happening around me, that's everything. But when you go and you realize, and the kids mentioned this to me, I was happy that they noticed that, it's big, it's solid. Like they were saying things like, I can't believe that these people really existed, and for so long, and look at these places, and questions like, Father, how many people have passed through this church, and hearing the lives of saints. And I said to them, we belong to something bigger than us, way bigger than us. And I wanted them to experience that, and I think we accomplished that. Yeah, so.
They had a deep appreciation for it when they saw. You had mentioned that, so you were inside the plaza, they were outside for the funeral, and they were able to meet other teenagers from around the world who were also there as pilgrims.
Oh yeah, they were so quick to make friends. So yeah, they were connected quickly, and I think also to see other young people living their faith in other parts of the world is also a big thing for them. And I'm well aware of these experiences because I've seen it in the World Youth Day and national congresses like NCYC or Steubenville. They realize that they are not alone, and it is not just adults pushing something. You have to believe this, you have to do that. To see that there are other kids that are actually living their faith and they have a genuine interest in searching and going deeper in encountering Christ, that's also transformative. They had a great time meeting people. Yeah.
That being said, you're all home, you're starting to recover and get back on schedule, but what do you hope comes of this pilgrimage that turned out to be so historic on so many levels?
I can see these teenagers to be agents of hope in our church, in the Diocese of Tucson, not just this year, for the rest of their lives. I want this pilgrimage to be a testament to the community that young people want to be in the church. Because I think it is important for the people who are listening that they apply. These are kids who wanted to go. That itself says a lot, or somebody in their community said, look, there is an opportunity. You should consider this. And they, move forward. So, but the way we set up the process was because I wanted to hear from them. I didn't want people telling them, you have to go, but for them to step forward and say, I want to be part of this, and then to go through the process. I think the beautiful of youth is that's the age when we are all searching for meaning. It's when we really want to understand life. We want to find purpose, in our lives. We want to figure out what's going to give meaning and make us happy. That is the beauty of youthfulness. It comes with, it's messy, It's messy, very messy, but what's behind their energy is a genuine search for truth and life and meaning. And if we believe that our faith is nothing else but the incarnation of truth, life, and meaning, which is Christ, then they shall meet.
Wow.
They shall meet. And we just need to create the spaces for them to have that encounter. I don't think young people are, when we say that young people are leaving the church, is because they are choosing wrong. It's because there is no enough opportunities to encounter that. You are going to leave something that, you are not going to follow a path that you don't know, or you don't understand, or you don't know that can be the meaning of your life, the purpose of your life. And it is our job to create those opportunities, those moments, the encounter, with Christ, rather than saying, you have to. No, nobody listens to that. Yeah. Nobody listens to, you have to, But all of us are always receptive to meaning and life, and we create the space. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. We're going to see the church getting back on track, with young people participating. And that was my great hope with this pilgrimage, that we can have a little community of disciples, these 45 kids, this community of disciples, to get to taste what it is to follow the truth, what it is to encounter God. And I think it happened.
Right.
So I'm hoping, going back to your question, I think they are going to be agents of transformation, to bring others to the boat, to say, here is where life is, here is where meaning is. This is what we're looking for. This is what we really want.
And as you told me from Rome, Pope Francis, our Holy Father, set this all up, the Jubilee of Hope, the pilgrimage for the teens, and they were all in one place together during a very unique time in our church's history.
Yeah. He's the responsible for all of this. He set it up and then say, bye, it's all yours. Now you guys, you take it and run with it. I think that was probably what we got from Francis. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you had mentioned he's a responsible father. He creates everything, he puts everything in place, and it's up to you to act on it. As you reflect on him, I know that emotionally it's been a lot for you over the last 9-10 days, but what is his legacy to the church?
Oof. That's a difficult question. I think the legacy of somebody like Francis is going to be we're gonna see it as time passes by, more into the future, to see what comes out of it. But I think what Francis wanted behind everything he did and everything he wrote, I think he wanted people to have a genuine encounter with God, and through encounters with the community. He loved community. He wanted people to meet each other and to find God in that encounter. And I would say that the parable of the prodigal son is one that can summarize his ministry, but also Emmaus, that walking on the road to Emmaus and realizing that God has been with us all along the way. I think if you put together these two parables, we can understand a little bit of what he wanted, what he was looking for. To encounter with a merciful father, a father who wants all his children inside of the house, but also a God who has always been next to us along the way. Yeah.
Very nice. Father, I think we'll end on that point. We appreciate your time, your reflection, and your service to the church.
All right. Thank you so much. God bless.